To begin, my thoughts and prayers are with the families of these beautiful students. Their young lives were tragically and senselessly cut short, and America demands justice. I've been quietly sitting back and watching people chime in on who they believe this cold, calculus murderer is, and thus a loaded question for Ashley Banfield, Dan Abrams, and Nancy Grace. It appears Bryan Kohberger is already tried and convicted by America in the court of public opinion, but does America have it right for the courtroom? It seems America abroad is confusing preponderance of evidence with reasonable doubt, and it is important to know the difference. Why? Because in America, we often too many times convict innocent people prematurely. Quick history lesson. In the O.J. Simpson trial, the prosecution couldn't clinch the beyond a reasonable doubt standard of 95% needed for a conviction. However, Simpson would eventually be sued for wrongful death because in a civil suit, the preponderance of evidence standard is usually lowered to 50.01%, or in layman terms, 0.01% more than a half-assed truth that the crimes against Nicole Simpson and Ronald Goldman could have been committed by Simpson the way presented. With that said, the evidence in the probable cause affidavit against Bryan Kohberger is not a slam dunk case, it's circumstantial at best, and it's up to Kohberger's defense attorney to pick apart the evidence to show why Kohberger should not be found guilty. Defense attorney Ann Taylor is going to want to show a jury why her client is innocent. A plausible defense strategy is to attack the evidence submitted with and by evidence left out. Evidence that establishes plausibility of a different culprit in the mind of a single juror. Evidence that speaks to one person that says, maybe Bryan Kohberger isn't the killer. I wanted to take the opportunity and time to expose factual evidence Moscow Police Department has overlooked. Let's revisit a person of interest web sleuths had honed in on prior to Kohberger's arrest. Bryan Kohberger versus Inan Harsh. The question for America is, should this look like this? Let's review some very crucial evidence. On November 13, 2022, Inan Harsh is a neighbor of the residence where the students are found deceased. On November 13, 2022, Inan Harsh has resided as a neighbor of the 1122 King Road property for approximately 2 years. Inan Harsh is a chef by trade, profession, and is not a university student. Inan Harsh stated he rented the King Road property because it had high vaulted ceilings where he could practice his fire stick drills. On November 13, 2022, Inan Harsh also has a residence listed at 125 Northwest Larry Street, Pullman, Washington. It is listed Inan Harsh has had this apartment for 5 years, since 2017. This is a crucial assessment because this Larry Street address is literally located within a 3-mile proximity from Bryan Kohberger's 1630 Northeast Valley Road apartment address. The probable cause affidavit shows Bryan Kohberger allegedly coming back to his apartment passing by this Larry Street area. Harsh is not forthcoming to the Moscow Police Department with this second address. He doesn't leave here until the end of December 2022. So why was Inan Harsh ruled out as a suspect? And why should Inan Harsh be reinvestigated? For going off of Dylan Mortenson's statement, Inan Harsh is 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. Inan Harsh admits to knowing multiple routes leading directly to the sliding glass door at the 1122 King Road property that an intruder could or would have taken. Inan Harsh admits to knowing when a pertinent time frame to attack the students could be achieved. Inan Harsh factually knows the area surrounding the house and the house itself greater than Bryan Kohberger. Inan Harsh is a known convicted felon, and a past criminal offense includes a robbery with drug distribution of marijuana, ecstasy, LSD, and cocaine while in possession of a firearm. In Harsh's Reddit Ask Me Anything, he goes on to say, 12 years ago I was charged with second robbery with a stolen firearm, felony possession of mushrooms, MDMA, meth, and opiates, I think. All charges were dropped, rightfully so, and I went to prison for possession with intent to deliver of MDMA. So he goes to prison for 1 year for intent to deliver 250 ecstasy pills. And while in prison, he says, I learned how to shoot up as well as to be humble and grateful. All in the same sentence. Can't make it up. He then goes on to say, when I got out, I didn't really have any plans because I didn't think I would make it past the age of 2024. I did drugs heavily, usually recreationally, but after prison I didn't start developing more addictive personality traits and became a bit more estranged. I started getting into speedballs, and at one point in my life I was having an OD almost every other month. I remember one time taking 3 shots of whiskey, then a speedball on top, and then waking up butt naked with my friends giving me CPR in the shower. So Harsh gets out of prison and he enrolls into a community college. And he says, my preferred activity was to eat 5 grams of mushrooms or 4 tabs of acid, put on some Aesop rock, and go 10-plus-mile walks. It wasn't till college that I started doing hard drugs over psychedelics. Sometimes after my UA, I would preload 10 coke shots and shoot up in the bathroom every 20 minutes during class. I was in a poetry class, so it was pretty dope. I'd take a fat ass shot, then go to class and write a bunch of poetry. In all honesty, it was pretty dope. Harsh then rambles on about how this girl he knows on campus, they go to her house and she eventually overdoses on campus and they get kicked out. Harsh then goes on to state, I found myself with a lot of time, a lot of money. For me, I probably spent about $600 a week on shooting up coke back then, and a lot of energy and passion. I worked up from singles to triple staff, financed a new hybrid, and got my own apartment. Over 100 applications to get one, over 600 to get a job. Life as a felon. I slowly moved up my way at work to prep, then pantry, then flat. Then I was being trained on Expo and Salty before I got hit by a truck as a pedestrian that fractured 3 of my ribs and put me out of work for 8-ish months. I never fully recovered, and with COVID happening right after, took a huge hit to my career goals. I got a $17,000 settlement, but I feel it's minuscule to the negative impact it had on my life. A lot of people bash Bryan Kohberger for his heroin use, when in all factuality, Enon Harsh has a greater criminal career and a greater intense lifestyle using drugs. That's a fact. Also, what I find very interesting here is this being hit by a truck while a pedestrian. He comes out with a $17,000 settlement. What happened right before the murders in front of Bryan Kohberger's apartment? At 11:40 p.m., cops are called to 1560 Northeast Brandy Way for vehicle versus pedestrian accident. I find this interesting because Harsh's place of business, where he's a chef, is located right here in this area. This happens 20 minutes before Harsh gets off of work at midnight, given his recent account of a $17,000 settlement from being a pedestrian hit by a truck. I'm pretty sure Harsh is going to visit this accident scene. It just leaves me to ask the question, could Harsh visiting this accident scene have been a trigger that would lead up to the murders later on to occur in the middle of the night? And so if we go over with this interview with Lauren Matthias and just pick out the events of the night as stated by Inan Harsh, there's some questions. There's some pretty good questions to ask. Ian stated when he gets off work, he hangs out and bullshits with a co-worker for an hour or so before leaving and heading home. So we know he's in this area where this accident is taking place. Harsh says he arrives at his residence at approximately 1:30 a.m. This is in the same time vicinity Madison and Kaylee arrive home. Harsh goes on to state he takes note of a black in color BMW SUV with tinted windows and nice rims. Harsh says that this black in color SUV had plates from Arizona, Colorado, Utah, or Montana, some mountainous state, he recalls. Harsh states that he would later go to the police department voluntarily to give them information about this black SUV. Harsh talks about how he usually takes long walks in the early morning hours when he arrives home from work. But Harsh stated that this was a normal night that he stayed in and practiced his fire sticks, played PlayStation. I have a slight problem with the fire stick drill portion of his statement because he says he never goes to sleep until 4 a.m. and we don't get any of the neighbors reporting his activity of him doing the drills. Now, if you go on the Reddit, Ask Me Anything, you can read in the comments where he says that he needs to purchase blinds and probably curtains because he doesn't have any. So if he's up to 4 a.m. in the morning twirling his staffs, someone was going to take note of that. But no one has came forward to state that they saw Inan Harsh doing these fire sticks. So what was Inan Harsh actually doing that night? He states generally that he's out walking late at night, but this was a normal night, so he stayed in. Now, the next part that I find odd in this video is right before he cuts off and how he's talking about what type of person has done this. Harsh reports that he read that a blunt, heavy object was used, and he goes, possibly a really strong person, hunter dude, super mentally ill, extremist with hunting, who has a farm blunt stabbing object, who waited patiently until it was quiet, and they knew about this weekend being quiet. Hold up. Is this Harsh admitting that he knew the weekend was quiet? When the interview first starts, he's like, he came home and it was weird because he didn't see anybody partying, but we got the Banfield incident going on, okay, and we know that it's the last night's football game, but Enon Harsh specifically states that the person that was the killer said they waited patiently until it was quiet, that they knew about this weekend being quiet. And then the video terminates. Now let's not forget that in the comments of Harsh's Ask Me Anything on Reddit, he does say that he hears a noise within the following days of the murder, and he did not lock his door, so he grabs his chef knife and it's in his sheath and he falls asleep with it. And that's kind of disturbing because we have a chef sleeping with a knife, okay? And everybody in the house is stabbed to death. Now, during a trial, I'm going to be looking forward for Miss Ann Taylor to call Inan Harsh to the witness stand because she is going to have a field day with Inan Harsh, and this is where you get that one juror to think, maybe Bryan Kohberger is not the killer. And I think it can be established by calling Inan Harsh to the witness stand as a witness. Alright, leave your thoughts and comments below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'll put out another video soon I got something in the works. Before I go, real quick, I believe in a body cam footage from Moscow PD. They're going to a noise ordinance house party, and I think that Enon Harsh can be seen doing his fire sticks, because I'm remembering there's a party going on, you got loud music, the cops are showing up, and I'm like, hey, there's a fire guy there. Has anybody else seen this video? If you believe you have or think you can find it, y'all guys help me hunt that thing down. I know a lot of YouTube's been saturated with everybody in the world covering this case, but I think that video could be pertinent to prove that Inan Harsh did attend these people's parties. I'm pretty sure I saw the fire stick party happening and he was there. Anyways, leave me your thoughts, and just gonna close with this. I mean, you gotta, it's up to Ann Taylor to build that doubt around Bryan Kohberger's innocence. See you guys next time.